Good afternoon, everyone. Spring training is a time in our game of hope and expectations, and I have to confess, at the risk of jinxing myself, we do have great expectations for 2025. Over the last couple of years, we feel like we've made great improvements with respect to the game on the field. We have a great generation of really talented players who are playing a game that's crisp, athletic, and action-packed. And our fans have really responded to that. I'm really going to take a risk here. Our clubs are telling us right now that they expect we'll be up attendance-wise for the third year in a row. We haven't done that in a very long time. Our ratings last year across all our platforms were up. Particularly excited about the fact that our 18 to 34s are up. A real focus for us has been trying to make sure that we have the youngest possible audience. I think the playoffs last year given us great momentum as we go into 2025. Believe me, nobody was happier than I was that we had an LA New York World Series, but it was not just the World Series. The fact of the matter is we had great series earlier in the playoffs, great individual games, a really interesting mix of teams in the postseason. And last, I would say this, well, two more. We do continue to attract the best players in the world to play in Major League Baseball. Sasaki, Sagana, Kim, all coming this year. And it's hard to miss the fact that these great players coming here are a real boost to our effort to internationalize the game. We had unbelievable audiences in Korea and Japan last year. The opener in Korea was the biggest Japanese audience we've ever had. And we had games during the World Series where the audiences in Korea and Japan rivaled those in the US and Canada. That's a great advantage for our sport as we move into a media world that is literally worldwide, not just the US, not the US and Canada, but literally the whole world. Last, we do have a nice array of events. We're playing some exhibition games in Monterey. We haven't been in Monterey in a couple of years. We're looking forward to that. The big event, obviously, early in the season is the opener in Tokyo. I cannot overstate the demand for tickets, sponsorship opportunities, and the level of excitement bringing Ohtani and the other Japanese players back to Japan is generated. And then, we're going to Bristol, where it's going to be interesting. I think another different experience that will be exciting for fans. And taking baseball someplace where we don't play it day in and day out. So all in all, we think 25 is going to be another great year, and we're looking forward to getting started.
Thank you, Commissioner. If you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll get you the microphone. If you just want to state your name and affiliation, and we'll start with Susan right up front here.
Yeah, you don't have to state your name. I know your name.
I will anyway, just to give your mic. Susan Seltzer, San Francisco Chronicle. Hi, Rob.
How are you?
Thanks for being here. I'm wondering about your visit to Sutter Health Ballpark earlier in the month, how you characterized that visit and what your impressions were of the ballpark.
It was a really positive day. I was glad that I took the time to do it before opening day. That was really my plan originally. I think that the level of excitement in the community is really palpable. I think their desire to have Major League Baseball in the short term and in the long term is really impressive. I think the owners of the River Cats and the owners of the A's have worked very hard together to make sure that for our players, it is as close to a major league experience as it can possibly be. There's a lot of investment that was done in facilities that you just would not have done otherwise. The ballpark is charming. I do think that Fans are going to have an opportunity to see Major League Baseball all season long in a really intimate environment, and I'm hopeful that the whole year is going to be a positive force.
And what's your knowledge of the current timeline with the Las Vegas Stadium and when ground might be broken?
Yeah, I don't think the timeline has changed. I talked to John last week. Believe that we're going to be on time to go in 2028 and can't give you a lot more granular detail than that.
Right up front, Commissioner, Bruce Levine.
Rob, Bruce Levine from radio. Bruce Levine from WSCR Radio and Marquee Sports Network. Two questions. Number one, how good do you feel about the chances of monetizing streaming for all 30 clubs within the next couple of years? How important is it, and what type of partnership are you going to need?
Well, from the beginning of this kind of shift in the media environment, I think we've been clear that at least for some interim period, there's going to be a hybrid model out there that we're going to continue to monetize on the linear side while the streaming side develops more fully. It's absolutely clear that streaming alone right now it does not produce the kind of economics that we've become accustomed to. But I do think that the combination of the remaining cable activity and streaming can get clubs into a good position, and that over time there will be opportunities in the digital environment to generate not only what we have generated historically, but more.
Thank you. Have the security issues been answered for you and your security people so that Wrigley Field can have an all-star game possibly as early as 2027?
Yeah, there are remaining issues that the Cubs are working through with local people. We're hoping that we get in a position, we think Wrigley would be a great host for an all-star game. But I think you will have an announcement once those issues are resolved, assuming they can be resolved.
Go to the second row on your far right, Rob. The second row.
Hi, Commissioner. I'm Jose Romero from the Arizona Republic. Thanks for being here. How are you kind of looking at the Chase, the Diamondbacks and their plans and proposals for Chase Field and the renovations and sort of the public-private venture that they want to enter into?
Look, I think that the reality of today's economics is that either building or renovating a stadium, almost by definition, has to be a public-private partnership. I give Derek and Ken a lot of credit for trying to be creative, making sure that we have a facility here in Arizona that's good for the long term, and making, obviously, on the club's part, a huge financial commitment towards achieving that goal.
To the third row in the right corner.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Victoria from Japan. So there are 12 Japanese major leaguer in MLB so far. How do you see the rapid development in Japanese baseball market?
I think that it's important to begin with the proposition that we have been good partners with NPB for a very long time. We've worked together on all sorts of events, including our opener in Tokyo this year, and the WBC. Over time, it's become absolutely clear that there are players in NPB that are not only good enough to play in Major League Baseball, good enough to be as good as anyone in Major League Baseball. And to their credit, NPB has worked closely with us to have a set of rules that allow people that want to play in Major League Baseball to come here. I think that they've done that in a spirit of partnership, and they have done it working with us in an effort to internationalize the game, because I do believe that Japanese stars being here is good not only for Major League Baseball, but for NPB as well.
Go to the second row on your left here.
Rob Manfred from CBS in San Diego. I'm curious, John Seiler was named the control person of the Padres, and amidst a bunch of lawsuits, which I'm not going to directly ask you about the lawsuits. I know you can't comment on them, but I'm curious your thoughts on the health of the San Diego Padres organization and their market. And then I have a follow-up question.
Yeah, so let me start by saying I think the Erics, Casenda, and have done a great job as an interim control person, and in terms of keeping the Padres on track. They've really improved their revenue situation dramatically. Obviously, they've been very good on the field, and they have done a great job during this interim period of uncertainty, both Erics, Casenda and Grudner. You know, I think that John is committed to the Padres long term. I think he shares the kind of vision that his brother had for the Padres. And I think the franchise is healthy and is going to continue to do well.
And then just completely different, but a lot of fans have talked about how what the Dodgers have done may not be great for baseball. I'm just curious your thoughts on what the Dodgers have done and what you think about it for the health of baseball.
Look, I think that the Dodgers have gone out and done everything possible, always within the rules that currently exist, to put the best possible team on the field, and I think that's a great thing for the game. That type of competitive spirit is what people want to see. By the same token, I said this at the owners' meetings, I'll say it again, it's clear that we have fans in some markets that are concerned about the ability of the team in their market to compete with the financial resources of the Dodgers. And I think if we've been consistent on one point, it is we try to listen to our fans on topics like this. And I have heard people on this, believe me, I get a lot of emails about it.
Stay right here, Commissioner, to your left.
Commissioner, one of the big storylines off the field in Milwaukee this year is the loss of Bob Uecker. He gets a lot of credit for being a funny man and for being a local radio announcer, but just what kind of ambassador was he for the game of baseball itself?
Yeah, Bob Uecker was a unique treasure for our game. You know, it's rare that you have somebody who kind of crosses out of sport into sort of the general consciousness in the U.S., and Bob was certainly that. Those type of ambassadors are really important to continuing the role of baseball in America's culture and in growing a new fan base. So he was a huge loss for our game, and I know a huge loss felt particularly in Milwaukee.
Go to Chelsea here in the second row.
Hey, Chelsea.
Hi. You mentioned that you hear from a lot of fans about payroll disparity. To what extent do you think the fans are more worried about that than the owners that you talk to? And if it's not top of mind for owners, what economic concerns are right now?
Look, I think that we certainly have owners in the game who are every bit as concerned as fans are about the level of disparity in the game. Look, we sell competition at the end of the day, and you would expect them to be concerned. I think that that issue combined with the effect of the changes in the media environment are 1-2 on the radar screen of owners, and you know they're related, at least right now, because the brunt of the downturn in the regional sports network market has been felt generally in our smaller markets. Unfortunately, it'll probably get to everybody at some point, but the larger market's more resilient and haven't felt the pinch quite as quickly.
Jared, right up front.
Hi.
How are you?
Okay. So you mentioned how the Dodgers are doing everything that they should within the rules. That system is going to go into this season with one team having a $400 million payroll and another having a $70 million. I mean, how comfortable are you with a sport that allows for that kind of disparity?
Yeah, I think that disparity, it should be. It certainly is at the top of my list of concerns about what's going on in this sport. When I say I can't be critical of the Dodgers, they're doing what the system allows. If I'm going to be critical of something, it's not going to be the Dodgers, it's going to be the system.
And how do you define competitive balance? It's a term used a lot. What does it mean to you?
I mean, look, it means a lot of different things. I mean, quantitatively, we often talk about not having repeat winners. I think that's important. There are other more sophisticated measures in terms of, the winning percentages and how they're spread. But maybe as important as any of those is the perception of the fan in the market. When you take the free agent market as an example of it, right? You sign a free agent, you don't know what you're going to get on the field. He may or may not make you better. But at least during the winter time, it generates a certain excitement that's good for your market. It gives fans the impression that you're trying, and that's important to the business as well. So there's a lot of different pieces to that phrase, competitive balance, in my view.
Go to your far left. We'll start right here. Rob.
Hi, thanks for being here, Commissioner. I'm Candace Saylor. I'm with Forbes.com. My question has to deal with sustainability. MLB is entering its second year partnership now with WM as exclusive sustainability partner. And I'm wondering if you can address some of the highlights from last year. What do you expect this year? Because apparently there are about 15 clubs that are already working with WM.
Yeah, look, WM was an exciting new partner for us last year. We had been in the market looking not so much on the economic side, but the right sustainability partner. They have been really successful in terms of getting involved at the individual club level, and that's where it really matters. I mean, our office in New York is only so big, right? I mean, it's what happens in the stadiums that matter. I'm hopeful, and I think WM, more importantly, is hopeful that we're going to see that 15 number grow this year, and it'll become, hopefully at some point, a 30-club involvement and effort on those issues.
Stay in the first row on your left, Commissioner, right over here.
Hey, Rob. David Brandt from the Associated Press. This is a little down the line, but the push for a potentially worldwide draft, is there any way to cut down on Latin American corruption, as far as the amateur signings without a draft, or is that really the only way you see to go?
Look, there's essentially two theories for dealing with the issues that you characterize as corruption, and I didn't. But there's two ways to deal with them. You can try to investigate and catch the people that are breaking the rules and penalize them in the hope that deterrence solves your problem. We have invested tens of millions of dollars on an annual basis, engaged in chasing wrongdoing. We catch people, but we don't catch everybody. And there's probably more that goes on that we don't catch than we do. Because of that, I have been a believer that the second alternative is really the better one. And that is the transparency associated with a draft, the inability to, make secret deals because you don't know who's going to draft whom, is really the best systemic approach to this problem of rules violations related to the signing market. And I want to be clear about this. This is not a number of player or economic issue from our perspective. It is a transparency issue associated with ending violations of our rules.
The third row, straight back on your right.
Jeff Sander, San Diego Union Tribune. What is baseball's vision for teams that have lost their local cable deals to compete year in and year out with teams that are still pulling in giant cable money?
Yeah, look, I alluded to it before. This is a temporal problem, okay? What's happening in cable eventually is going to bite everybody. In the interim, we have taken steps to try to support the clubs that experienced the problems first, stepping in with MLB Media, giving them the ability to have a digital product in market without making all of the investment that would be necessary for them to do that on their own. We were very fortunate last year. The MLBPA gave us some flexibility with respect to the supplemental commissioner's discretionary fund, and we used that money to help the clubs that had been hit the hardest by the decline in local media revenue. And we're going to continue with all of those programs this year to the extent we can get another agreement with the MLBPA.
Do you anticipate the next CBA to have to address it in a more significant way?
Look, I don't know that the next CBA is really the way to address the media issue. I think that the way to address the media issue over the long haul is really in our next national negotiations after the 2028 season. And I do think baseball needs to alter its approach in advance of those negotiations. I think we need more central control over all of the rights, whether they're traditionally thought of as national or local. And we should be making an effort to make our product more national, because those national games are worth a lot more than games that are sold only in a local market.
Hey Rob, just to ask a question that hasn't been asked today. I mean, back to the payroll disparities. Is a cap on payroll still the fix-all, or is there another way to get there, knowing you have a year until you open negotiations?
You know, I'm not going to get into what the answer is yet. We're a year away. I have owners with really strongly held views that I need to coalesce into a position that we ultimately will take to the MLBPA, and I don't think starting that debate publicly is a good start. Whatever we settle on, we're going to present in the collective bargaining process and try to handle it privately with the MLBPA.
Standing on your far left, Commissioner Jordan.
Jordan Schusterman, Yahoo Sports. Rob, with another year under the new rules at the major league level, has anything surprised you at how those rules have kind of taken into effect at the big league level, and what is some of the feedback that you've gotten from the teams from a competitive standpoint?
Look, I think that from the teams have been uniformly more positive about the rule changes than I thought they would be. I think that everybody has come to appreciate that the changes in the game, it's not just about the minutes, it's about the action and the athleticism that fans were looking for, and I think the clubs uniformly have responded favorably. Now, they may have to make changes, you know, in order to be competitive with that change, but they have been uniformly positive about it. I think that the most surprising and pleasantly so, and I think important for the long term, is because of the process that went on in the minor leagues, the results we got at the big league level were really close to what the people in our baseball operations group predicted. And I think that's important for the future because it gives people confidence that you can make a change, predict what's going to happen, and get the outcome that you're looking for. And I you know, like any institution, we're going to need to continue to change going forward.
First row on your right, Commissioner.
Hey, Bob. Hi, Rob. Bob Nagel, USA Today. Rob, with the Dodgers, when you look back, is this any bigger concern or the same as it was back in the Yankee days with the George Steinbrenner days when they had the biggest payroll?
Yeah, I mean, the dollars are obviously bigger. I think that the interesting fun fact to know and tell that the Dodgers, whatever they spend, are probably more profitable on a percentage basis than the old Yankees were, meaning it could be more sustainable, so it is more of a problem. But look, it is the core of the issues in our economic system is that disparity-driven difference in terms of the ability to compete. So in that sense, it's sort of the same.
Finish up with Barry up front.
Hi, Rob. Do you have...
This is good because your second time around, that means I'm close to done.
Well, it's only my first time. But do you have a price on what it took to get the Sacramento ballparks and the Tampa Bay ballparks up to the MLB standards?
Well, those are very different numbers. I don't know the number in Sacramento. It was sort of a split cost between the River Cats and the A's, so I can't give you a great number. You know, the Tampa estimates have been all over the place, and we have an expert that's working with the city and the club in terms of trying to decide exactly what needs to be done and how fast it can be done and what it costs. But you know, it's going to be in the $50+ million range in Tampa for sure.
And that's not including what the Yankees just did to improve their.
Yeah, the Yankees, you know, and I think I've said this publicly, but I'm going to say it now. You know, the industry owes Hal Steinbrenner a real debt of gratitude. I mean, he put literally tens of millions of dollars into improving Steinbrenner Field, and the first people who are really going to get to use it for any period of time is the Tampa Bay Rays. And that support for the industry, that collegiality is a really important thing, and you know, Hal deserves a ton of credit for that approach that he took.
And secondly, with everything that you've talked about, I'm sure you've looked at the NBA's recent CBA, and it addresses a lot of the issues you're just talking about in terms of penalties and sustainability and having teams around the league being able to compete with teams in bigger markets. And it's not necessarily the salary cap. They've got kind of a soft salary cap with, you know, a bunch of like levels like you guys have. Is there any chance that you can negotiate with the BPA to get to some of those things?
Look, again, I'm not going to speculate about what we're going to propose, what we're going to try to negotiate with the MLBPA. We're a year away. I owe it to the owners to give them an opportunity to coalesce around a bargaining approach. And quite frankly, I owe it to our fans not to get into all this too early. I mean, it's bad enough when you're doing it and bargaining and everybody's worried about it. We're just not there yet.
Commissioner, thanks very much for your time. I
I appreciate it.
First.